Your office objected to us getting Delta records for flights that you may have taken with Mr. Wade.
No. Look, I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused.
Because they deserve a DA that won't have sex with his employees.
Did you or did you not, by May the 30th, have had sexual relations with Miss Willis, yes or no? Yes.
Before I get started, I would love to invite District Attorney Fani Willis to come to the front of the congregation. We, the people, would love to have a word with you. So if you're watching this, please come to the front of the congregation. Now, a lot of people covered this case. A lot of people, throughout the case have been covering it, giving us the details throughout. I didn't want to touch it. I wanted to wait until the dust settles. I really didn't want to get into it because there were too many unknowns. So I really didn't want to touch on a case like this until everything was settled. Well, we're in luck because today everything is settled. And basically the judge ruled that in order for this case to continue, Fani Willis would have to get off the case, or Nathan Wade would have to get off the case. Damn! One of them would have to get off the case. But basically the case could not proceed with both of them on the case. All right, so let's run over to New York Times for a little bit to see what exactly the judge said about this. And just like I thought, man, Nathan Wade resigns from Trump case after judge's ruling. So the romance between District Attorney Fani Willis and Mr. Wade, the lawyer she hired to manage the Georgia election case, created an appearance of impropriety, the judge said, or impropriety, right? And so because, the ruling by Judge Scott McAfee on accusations of a conflict of interest cut a middle path between removing Miss Willis, the Fulton County District Attorney, and her full vindication, the judge sharply criticized her for dating Mr. Wade, whom she hired to manage the election interference case, calling it a tremendous lapse in judgment. Now, like I said before, I think this case, it was more of, or this case with Fani Willis, it was more of an embarrassment than anything else. As we all know, man, when you're in the professional world, any mixing business with pleasure is always going to create problems for credibility. And in the court of law, that will basically put your credibility in question. And this was not only in the court of law, it was also in the court of public opinion, because like I said, a lot of people were covering this. It was all over the news. So she was in the court of law and also in the court of public opinion. And just from the way people are reacting, I don't think this is going to end well for Fani. Even after this case, I think her credibility will take a stain, and it will always be in question because of what happened here. People tend not to forget things that easily, especially bad things. So basically because of that, man, Nathan Wade basically had to resign from the case because of his involvement, and obviously they want the case to move forward. So Mr. Wade decided to step back. But I know a lot of you out there, man, you're questioning, how do people even know that this was the case? How do we know? How did it come out that Fani and, Nathan Wade were messing around? Like, how did that news get broken? Well, I got the answer for you. So basically, Ashley Merchant, the defense attorney for Trump's co-defendants, she kind of let the rabbit out the bag with how they discovered it. So I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna let that clip play, and then I'm gonna come right back. All right. So this is Ashley basically speaking and how she knew about, the relationship between Fani and Mr. Wade. Let's check it out.
Learn about this relationship between Mr. Wade. I think this has been acknowledged now by both parties, correct?
It has, yes.
It's a dispute as to when it began, but it's acknowledged that they had I don't know if they still do, but at least had a romantic relationship.
Yes, that's
How'd you figure that out? How'd you find it out?
So at first, I knew Mr. Wade and I knew Miss Willis, and a lot of people in the community were a little surprised to see Nathan, Mr. Wade handling this case. It was just a lot of people said that, and so a lot of people were talking about that, and it was kind of surprising because it's not really, he does a lot of law practice, but this isn't what you would imagine him doing.
Did you ever?
Okay, so I'm glad she said that, because This was the main reason why it got called out, and it was suspicious to all their peers around them. Mr. Wade this is not his area of expertise. Like, the case that Fani Willis put him on is not his area of expertise. Therefore, Fani was fucking Mr. Wade, so she decided to throw him an alley hoop. So here's a big case we got for you. You know, you're my boy, I love you, so I'm gonna throw you this alley hoop so you could cash out on this case. That's exactly what happened, which is why everybody was surprised. Let's continue.
See him have other billings. How do you have time to represent anybody else when he's billing, 24 hours a day to Fulton County?
He had other people working for him. Like, he had a law student working for him for a while, and then he had a first year associate. So I'm assuming that they would probably do whatever other work he had.
Did you ever look at his calendar? Did you have access to that to see if it matched up?
No, I didn't have access to his calendar, and I didn't have access to their like text messages. I mean, I was able to get his geolocation data through subpoena, but the one thing that really struck me is if I was accused of something and I was saying I didn't do it, I would download my phone. They have a system. It's called Celebrate, and Fulton County pays for it. City of Atlanta pays for it. It's literally a system that you can hook your phone into. I haven't investigated.
All right, so basically, she broke it down right there. So Nathan Wade basically was billing, like, the stories I read about this is that Nathan Wade was billing ridiculous hours, and he was getting paid hourly for this case. So he was billing, like, per day, he was doing like 18 hours, 20 hours a day on a fucking case, right? While, cell phone records were subpoenaed, actually, and it showed, like, text messages, even deleted text, geolocation, whatever. And it showed that Nathan Wade was fucking at Fani Willis's house at like 2 a.m. You know what I'm saying? Like, Fulton County was basically paying Nathan Wade to beat the Mario coins out Fanny's pussy. Like, that's the only way. Because why the hell would your prosecutor that you hired be at your house at like 3:30, 4 a.m? Because y'all are fucking. That's the only reason. And if it happened on multiple occasions, obviously they fucking each other. You get what I'm saying? And that's why the whole, romantic relationship and credibility and conflict of interest came up. So that's what she's talking about right here. And basically, they have a software, that they can find these things out. And Fani, as a district attorney, I would think she would know about things like this. So why the hell would she try to hide or tell lies or commit perjury for that matter? Because she knows they have the technology to find the truth. So I don't understand why she would jeopardize herself and her career by committing perjury and just flat out lying about things. That shit is crazy to me.
That has it, and I have my clients do it all the time. You hook your phone up and it can find deleted text, it can find everything, and you can limit it. You can say, I only want text with this person. So if I was being accused of having an affair with someone and I said it didn't start until April and someone else said it started in October, the easiest thing to do is to download that phone. And for privacy concerns, you can file it under seal, but you could easily.
And I'm gonna stop it right there too, because so basically the reason why the dates matter in this case is because Fani Willis basically said that she and Nathan developed a relationship after she hired her. It was not prior to the hiring, which cell phone records show that was a motherfucking lie. They actually were fucking prior to this, and she hired Nathan because Nathan basically was her partner. That was the interpretation I got. You know what I'm saying? And then, Fani, when I think she went to a church and she said that, people were basically accusing her because she was black. So she was trying to play the black card. But I think that's a weak case to play the black card, because you've broken so many. That's basically a conflict of interest. And Fani should know that. She's a district attorney. She's been an attorney for a very long time. A well-decorated attorney at that. So she should know these things. So I don't understand why she's playing the black card and just doing the easy way out instead of being accountable. That's crazy to me. But so let's remember this, right? So the dates Fani said was she and Mr. Wade basically got together after she hired her. But the phone records showed that she and Mr. Wade got together prior to that, before that, right? So basically, she was caught in a lie, essentially. And there was more than one person besides the phone records. Like we also had a witness that came forward and said otherwise, but I'm gonna go through that later. But right now, let's stop this recording here and let's go through a breakdown of the case, right? So I'm just gonna the New York Times gave us a breakdown of the case. So I'm just gonna go through that right now. So just give me a second. All right, so let's go through the timeline of events of this case. So on January 8th, Ashley B. Merchant, basically the lawyer for the co-defendant for on the case defending Trump, she basically said that she filed charges in court that Fani Willis, the district attorney, was engaged in a clandestine relationship with Nathan Wade. So this was on January 8th, right? So follow the timeline. On January 14th, at a church service in Atlanta dedicated to Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King, Mrs. Willis claimed that racism was a factor in the scrutiny, which is what I spoke about earlier, right? And then, she was denying it. And she said that her hiring Mr. Wade, she described Mr. Wade's credentials as impeccable, which is fucking lies, because nobody in their circle thought Mr. Wade was the right person for the job. As a matter of fact, he has never done these type of cases before, right? So Fani basically threw him an alley-oop. And February 2nd, Mrs. Willis acknowledges in a court filing a personal relationship with Mr. Wade, but denounces the allegations of a conflict of interest as fantastical theories and rank speculation. Order argues there is no reason to disqualify her or her office from prosecuting the Trump case. I have to disagree with that. And this goes across, not just law or the legal field, but in all fields. Fani Willis is in the, if we're talking about hierarchy, Fani Willis is Mr. Wade's superior. He hired him. She's basically his boss on this case. And I think the way the rules are set up, our employment laws are set up, as a superior, you're not supposed to be fucking with somebody who is beneath you or who reports to you. That's a conflict of interest in any field. People get fired for shit like that. You're not supposed to be fucking somebody who you hired. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's tons of examples we could go through of people losing their jobs over shit like this. So what she's saying is a load of crap. And February 15th, the first day witness testimony begins a series of hearings. A former friend of Mrs. Willis says she has no doubt that the two started a romantic relationship earlier than what Mr. Wade testified several hours before. And this is in fact true. As a matter of fact, I'm going to play the clip right now with the witness saying that, their relationship she saw them being romantic, as far back as 2019, while Mr. Wade, I think, was married. So check out the clip.
When did your romantic relationship with Miss Willis begin?
2022.
When in 2022?
Early 2022.
But you two met at an October 2019 judicial conference, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You have no doubt that their romantic relationship was in effect from 2019 until the last time you spoke with her?
No doubt.
Did you observe them do things that are common among people having a romantic relationship?
Yes.
Such as, can you give us an example?
Hugging, kissing, just affection.
All before November 1st of 2021, correct?
Yes.
All right, so y'all saw what she had to say about that. And on February 23rd, in a court filing, lawyers of the former president Donald J. Trump presented an affidavit describing phone records, which showed more than 12,000 calls and text messages between Mrs. Willis and Mr. Wade in the first 11 months of 2021. That is crazy. 12,000 calls and text messages. You can't tell me they were talking about business. Like, that's impossible. You don't call that much and text that much talking about business. You know what I'm saying? They were planning their fucking vacation, if you ask me. Because apparently, a lot of times they went on, a lot of luxurious trips, domestic and international trips. They did it. And, credit card records, as a matter of fact, were pulled from Mr. Wade. And it said that he paid for these trips. And then Fani Willis said that, she reimbursed them for the trips. You lie! So this kind of paints the picture that all the money that, Mr. Wade was making from the case, Fani was basically benefiting from that. You get what I'm saying? That's why one of them had to be dismissed from the case, because for the case to go forward, it would just be a bad look. It would be very unprofessional for this case to go forward with two people on the case who are romantic partners. That's just mixing business with pleasure, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, and I hope it doesn't make sense to you either. All right, so basically the final arguments, man, came March 1st. Those are the final arguments, and I'm just going to run down to March 15th. So the judge rules that Miss Willis could not stay on the case, but only if Mr. Willis withdraws from it. Basically, and today is actually March 15th. So that ruling was made today. So breaking news, Nathan Wade has withdrew from this case because the judge ruled it that way. All right, so this is basically the case summed up, and these are my 2 cents on it, man. I think this is a very bad look for, let me say it, it's a very bad look for a district attorney. And I believe, you know, I'm not going to go off on a tangent and speak about, you know, women equality and, you know, black equality in the workplace, but we all know that to some degree, those things do exist to some degree. We've had constant battles of, you know, women saying they're not getting equal pay as men and they do the same job. Like we've had, you know, I'm not gonna say I was the author of those conversations, but you know, just growing up in the community, you know, I always got the impression, or people around me always told me that, you know, as a black person or even as a black woman, it's even harder to really get in these positions of power. You know what I mean? It's very difficult to really get in these positions of power as a black person or a person of color. And so when you do get in these positions of power, me personally, I think that you should handle yourself with dignity and with class. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's not very often people of color, and even women, it's not very often you see a woman, and a woman of color at that, get these opportunities. And for Miss Willis to just go up there and show us her ass, basically, and just was very unprofessional about how she handled this case, and she disrespected her office, in my opinion. She really disrespected her office. You get what I'm saying? And now that's like a slap in the face of all the other women who are, you know, trying to basically aspire to get to an office like that. It might make their job a little bit harder now. Because, you know, you give a, you know, somebody gets an opportunity and it's just a bad look. It's a bad look on Mrs. Willis. It's a bad look on Mr. Wade. It's a bad look basically her entire staff. It's a bad look. It's a really bad look. And it's just embarrassing, man, that, you know, as a community, you would think that, you know, when a woman or a black woman at that gets an office of this kind of magnitude, she would treat that office with respect and with dignity. But she basically went up there and acted like she didn't give a fuck and started fucking her, you know, subordinate. And what we have today is what's the result of that. You get what I'm saying? So I'm really not gonna say too much about this, man. Those are my thoughts on this case. I think it's extremely embarrassing for Fani. I think even after this is said and done, I think her credibility is going to take a shock. It's going to take a hit. I really do think so. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm not in her field, so I don't know how her career is going to go after this, or if people are just going to forget. I don't know. But I do know one thing, that a lot of people are not going to forget. That's what I do know. I don't know if everybody's going to forget, but I know that a lot of people are not going to forget. And her credibility is really, really taking a hit. All right, but that's just my thoughts on the situation, man. Let me know you guys' thoughts on it. Until next time, man, I appreciate y'all for tapping in with us, and we're going to keep coming out with more bangers for y'all. Appreciate y'all, man. Be safe.